Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Jerrika and Alex, and we are the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thank you guys for listening. Hey, Jer.
Hey, Alex. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I was thinking about my story, but I don't really have a story. I had a realization. I haven't watched a show or a movie in like 3 months. Are you a Netflix watcher or a show watcher?
We kind of go in cycles, and like I would say not the type of cycle that most people go in, where it's like they crush like an entire season in one night. Like we haven't really done that since Emerson's been born. There was one day where both of us were homesick and he was at like daycare or something, and we watched like an entire season of the show in one day. But we're like, basically we'll go through phases where we don't watch anything, and then we'll kind of find a show we like, and we might watch like 3 or 4 episodes a week.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you're not one of those really into it. No, I couldn't believe it. I used to watch something every night, just kind of wind down and just look. I used to eat my dinner in front of the TV. Like I loved it. But no, it's been 3 months. I haven't watched a single thing. It's crazy. And my sleep has been so much better. Crazy how that works,
It's amazing. Yeah. And we tell it to people all the time, right? That wind down time before bed is so beneficial for your sleep. Okay, so I've got a show for you then. It's The Terminal List on Prime Video.
Okay.
Terminal List, and it's Chris Pratt is the main actor, and it's
excellent,
freaking good, but it's only 8 episodes.
That's good, because I don't want anything that I have to commit a lot to, especially in the summer, right? It's just nice to have something, but at the same time, it's been nice to have like nothing. I just kind of canceled. I originally had canceled a bunch. I still have Prime though, but I canceled all my things because like it's summertime. Why am I paying for it? Anyways, cool. I'll check it out.
Another thing that I'm like a bit of a shameless sucker for is Big Brother.
I love it.
I love Big Brother. That's like the one game show that I would love to be on.
Oh, like you would actually want to do it?
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. That's fun. Not me. I'm more of like an Amazing Race Canada kind of person.
Yeah, one and done. Or no, that one's actually long.
It's a season.
I think Survivor would be fun too. Anyways, we're getting off topic. What do you got for us today?
I do want to talk about stress and health and wellness journeys, and just a little bit more specific route. I don't necessarily want to talk about, unless you do, about like the deep dive into how it affects the body and like that. But I just want to talk about more the way that we see stress affects people in their health and wellness journeys, things we can do to help mitigate it, things like that. A little bit more generalized, especially when it comes to fat loss.
Okay. So before we get going, do you see this going into like all forms of stress, or more like mental and emotional stress? Or are you talking like any form of stress?
Well, yeah, I would like to note for sure that there's different forms of stress. That's definitely something that I'd like to open it with, because I think when people think stress, they think a negative thing, right? Immediately. Cool. But stress, there's distress and eustress, right? So there's 2 different types: the good in quotations and the bad in quotations.
Yeah. That's interesting. Actually, I got a message from one of our clients yesterday that was like, my weight went way up. I'm retaining water. And so we dug into it a little bit and discovered that she had like an unusually difficult exercise day. She did tons of exercise, and it's like, yeah, that was a positive experience. It felt amazing. You did good things for your body. You didn't injure yourself, but that's a ton of stress on the body. So as a result, your body's retaining water and your weight's up a little bit today. Not a bad thing.
Exactly. And I think that's a good place to start, because like I said, people automatically think, even in that situation, the results to her the next day, or him or her, was, oh my gosh, this is a bad stressor. When in reality, it's actually a good stress to the body, and it does a lot of great things, but it is still stress. And that's the bottom line: is stress in form of physical activity is great stress, but it can result in what we see as days of recovery. So then we kind of deem it as a bad stressor. So it's kind of interesting. I kind of want to talk about that too.
Yeah, like you you can see the mindset behind it. Like, okay, I worked out so hard today. I'm probably gonna be down like 2 pounds tomorrow. Like I've earned this, right? Or I went out and ran like a marathon today. I'll probably be down in weight tomorrow because I burned so many calories. But then you jump on the scale and you're like, oh, what the heck? Like, how is my weight possibly up? And it's your body's recovering. But sometimes what we see with, especially with those endurance events, is you jump on the scale and you are down a lot, and that's probably because you're dehydrated.
I was just going to make note, it can go both ways. And
Yeah.
usually it's kind of like a couple of days later where you might see it drop because, you know, you are recovered and you're still in a calorie deficit, because it's hard to eat that much when you're working that hard, or you're just or you're just dehydrated because you've sweat an absurd amount that day.
Yeah, like if you look at the scale right before and right after a workout, especially a workout where you sweat a lot, you're going to be lighter if you don't drink water. It's alarming how much weight you can lose in a workout. You shouldn't really be trying to lose weight in a workout though, because it's all fluid that you're losing at that point. So our goal should almost be to leave the workout heavier than we came into it, because we're hydrating enough through the workout. So that's an interesting little test for people if you have a scale handy for your workout.
Yeah, I if you follow us, if you're listening and you follow us on Facebook on our free group, Forever Fit, Forever Strong, I made a little water chat about that. And I said same thing, like, you know, if you're working out hard, every 15 to 20 minutes, you should be having a cup of water to try to keep up and stay on top of it. And that was a kind of an eye opener for a lot of people.
Yeah, especially in those sweaty workouts. The strength based workouts where you're not sweating as much are the ones that really surprise people, because you're like, I was lifting weights or doing yard work all day. I wasn't really sweating because it was cooler maybe, but like my muscles are sore today, and that kind of stress, like your body has to do some serious recovery from that kind of stress. So that's very common to see the scale jump after that.
Yeah. Just because you're not actually perspiring, but the breakdown of your muscles requires water in terms of just repairing. Yes, people don't realize that. Cool. Yeah. Kind of a little. Now let's go into like the distress, like the bad in quotations, the stuff that really affects us mentally, changes our routines, changes our habits, because I think this is one that plays obviously the biggest part in the long-term fat loss point of like perspective, whereas we just talked about the exercise portion is more short term and things that we can learn a lot from that and see past it. But when we have these big stressors on us mentally, emotionally, daily, this is kind of where we almost become a common thing we see, I think, as coaches, is we almost identify with our stress. Totally. And some of our clients we almost find that they identify it's part of who they are, or they're always almost seem to be searching for more because it's just become part of their lifestyle.
Yeah, agreed. Some people like are like stress magnets, if you will. Just like some people are like super confrontational type of people. They love to get in arguments and fights. Some people like attract stress, but I don't even really like to look at stress as a good or a bad thing, but more about how we handle it. Like we know that we are all going to be faced with stress, good and bad stress, if you will, but like you have the ability to handle it significantly different. And when we handle it poorly, it snowballs and it becomes exponentially more negative or bad stress when we're not handling it well, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is actually something I wanted to kind of get into, because the way that we handle stress, we see this differently. And I think this is a good kind of place to talk about the different ways people handle it. You know, some people, we can talk about it with nutrition, right? Emotional eaters, people want to eat more because, you know, it could be the attachment to food, or it could be that it keeps their mind busy, whatever it may be, is that you're eating more. On the other hand, some people tend to steer clear from food. It almost makes them nauseous. It makes them too busy to think about food. So then they don't eat. So that's a big one with nutrition and stress.
Yeah, totally. I think just like alcohol and lack of sleep, stress kind of impairs our decisions, right? When we're really stressed, we're often not sleeping well. And when we're not sleeping well and we're really stressed, it snowballs. And then we start making these decisions. Your priorities start to become blurred. So if your health and fitness was one of your higher priorities, you start to lose focus on that as you're more stressed and underslept. And it's like, you know what? I don't even care. I just want to eat this convenient food, this convenient comfort food, because I don't even really care about the goal anymore. But then what happens is your stress maybe comes down a little bit. You start sleeping a little bit better. And like, oh my God, how did I sabotage myself for that past week so hard? But like, it was almost in like an impaired state, right? So it's sometimes this is probably happened to everybody listening to this, and it's something to be really aware of, because if we're aware of it and we put certain steps in place, like having healthy food prepped and ready, it becomes easier to combat this and avoid this kind of thing happening.
Definitely. And then later on in the podcast too, I would like to get into some things we can do and some tips to just kind of help alleviate that, for sure. What I also notice with a lot of clients is, and people, when we're busy, even myself, right? We're busy and we have stress going on. The last thing we typically do is want to put ourselves first, right? We have all these things on our plate. We've got to figure out how to deal with each situation, whereas we're not putting our health and wellness first. And then that just, like you said, snowballs into now maybe we're getting sick or we're getting injured, and all of a sudden we can't help whoever or whatever situation we're trying to work with. So that's a really common one. And like you mentioned, with nutrition and exercise, I have to, if it's like a really big stressor, like going into a hospital or dealing with a loved one or things like that, that's typically, you never think to put yourself first because there's something so much more important in front of you. But how in the world can you take care of someone else if you're not taking care of yourself first? And I think this is the conversation I've been having with quite a few of our clients lately, just because it seems as though we're, sometimes we aren't prepping, or we aren't going for, even if we're at a restaurant, maybe grabbing the more nutrient dense foods to try to keep ourselves healthy, because we're just trying to grab anything at this point, a bag of chips, whatever's convenient. Yeah. It's just taking that extra second to be like, okay, what choice should I make? How is this going to help me help this person, if that's the situation that you're in?
Yeah, even those small changes, like you're in a pinch, emergency happened, you end up at McDonald's because it's like midnight and you have to eat and you're with your family. It's like, you don't have to eat all of the crap food because you're there. Like, you're not going to be able to make a really good choice there, but you absolutely can minimize the damage, right?
It also definitely circles back to that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I like that. So one thing I just quickly want to touch on, we don't have to dig deep into this, but just so people have a general understanding, is we've talked lots about a calorie deficit. So if you want to lose weight, you need to eat less than you can, or you need to eat less calories than you're burning. We don't ever know exactly how many calories we're burning because it's fluid. It changes over time, based off tons of different factors, hormonal, exercise, sleep, like all of these things, genetics, all of these things play a role on how many calories you're burning. So you never actually know if you're in a calorie deficit unless your weight is continuously dropping, not day by day, but continuously dropping. And so the way that stress affects that is it compounds with sleep specifically, but stress to the body and lack of sleep, either or, and especially when they're combined, will lower your metabolic rate, at least temporarily. Don't think of this as a long-term thing, but when you're faced with a lot of stress and you're faced with lack of sleep, and aside from all of these poor decisions you're making, say you make every decision still the same, your metabolic rate starts to drop slightly, which changes how many calories, how big of a caloric deficit you're in. So if you are continuously eating 2,000 calories day after day after day after day, and you're losing weight, and then stress event happens, maybe sleep goes out the window, maybe it doesn't. Now, all of a sudden, your metabolic rates drop to like 1,900 calories a day, and you see your weight start to go up. Well, that's kind of the way that works. We can't always expect the exact same amount of calories to always be in a calorie deficit, because that metabolic rate changes with things like stress factors.
Yeah, I'm really glad you noted that. And you said that that stress and sleep compound with each other, but even lack of sleep is, again, a stressor.
Totally.
Right. So just keeping in mind that, so many factors go into play, but I am glad that you noted keeping all factors the same, like you said, 2,000 calories a day, making sure that everything else in our life is the same, it does have an impact. I want to know, does it have as massive as an impact as some maybe people say? Like, maybe not. Like you said, it might not be, I need to eat 1,000 more calories because I'm in a stressful state. I think sometimes we almost over consume, or we think stress is playing a little bit bigger part in our fat loss, where in reality it's likely our decisions that we're making.
Totally.
Are we going to bed early enough? But I think that it's so important to know that it does affect us metabolically.
Well, and it's easy to fall into that all or nothing thinking, right? Where it's like, oh my God, like I can't get anything right now. The scale is going crazy. Nothing's going right. Whatever. I'm gonna write this week off. I'll start fresh next week. That right there is the problem. If you stay focused through a period like this and try to minimize the damage and make the good choices where you can, you're going to see the scale jump a bit with water retention, mostly a little bit maybe of fat gain, not significant, but the water retention is going to make it look like you've gained a ton of weight. If you can push through that mentally, as stress factors come back down, sleep comes back down, you'll be right back to where you were. But most people struggle with that because they feel like nothing's going right, so they start to become complacent and more accepting of choices they wouldn't normally be.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that with our clients, and it's what we do sometimes in periods of really high stress, because with our clients, we're typically looking for fat loss, right? We work with a lot of fat loss clients who, like you mentioned, when you're in a fat loss stage, you're in a calorie deficit, and a calorie deficit is putting stress on the body. So sometimes during these periods of really high stress, we talk about maintenance phases, or giving them a little bit more to eat so that we're not adding more stress to the plate and to their table, so that they can, like you mentioned, kind of come out of this phase a little bit more ready to go and haven't seen such a big change in their body or their composition, what they're looking for. So using that maintenance phase to kind of stay the same right now during this period of high stress, like I'm going to emphasize high stress, because we're always in and experiencing stress, and we need to find ways to mitigate that. But when it's just maybe overwhelming, then keeping our nutrition the same a little bit more can help alleviate that, not be so overwhelming.
And to overcome stress, we need to optimize recovery. And in order to optimize recovery, we need to be moving continuously, eating well, and prioritizing rest, specifically sleep. Stress makes all of those things difficult, but not impossible, right? And so to overcome stress, we actually need to start prioritizing recovery too, it's a catch-22 that can lead to a very vicious cycle for people, depending on how you choose to handle that stress.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's a lot of the stuff. That's pretty much everything I wanted to dive into in terms of stress. But I do want to dive into now, I guess you'd call it tips, but just things that we can recommend, like maybe like a top 5 things to focus on in periods of overwhelming or high stress, to kind of keep it simple, things they can do, things you do personally at home.
Cool.
Maybe we'll each kind of give one back and forth.
Yeah, I want to start off just with the saying that I use all the time. I love this. Is when an airplane's going down and the oxygen masks drop from the ceiling, and they always tell you to put that oxygen mask on yourself first. This is the same thing with all aspects of life. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't do a really efficient job of taking care of those around us. We all want to prioritize the people around us, our family, our kids, our parents. We want to help them. The truth is, you will do a better job of helping them if you take care of yourself first. Long term. Short term, I get it. Long term, it will fail you, right? You sooner or later are going to break if you're constantly taking care of those around you instead of yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. I always forget about that one. And then when I'm on a plane, I'm like, oh yeah, Alex's favorite analogy.
I love that. I've probably said it on a bunch of podcasts, and I say it to clients all the time, but you have to take care of yourself first so you can do a good job of taking care of others. You look at major companies like Apple that allow their employees to work out during the day and have like outdoor time and workout time, and their employees are smashing it. Like, they're doing such a good job because they are letting their employees take care of themselves so that they can perform better in the workforce, rather than just plugging somebody behind the desk and be like, work for 8 hours. Well, nobody's going to thrive.
No one's going to be happy. It's true. That's the same situation. Something I think of, it's obviously a little bit different here, but we talked about water a lot in this podcast, and I want to just, my favorite tip is if you're not bringing a water bottle basically everywhere you go, especially during these periods of high stress, whether it's, at work, yep, me too, hospital, wherever it is, bring it with you everywhere you go. It's a simple habit that you can just stack on anything. And I know it seems like most of us do it, but it's just a really good reminder. That's probably the first thing you might forget to grab when things get a little crazy, right? You're like, you should always have that on you. And it's a simple way to get going.
I don't know about you too, but if I don't drink enough water, I always get a headache. And if you get a headache, that's putting your body under more stress.
Exactly. That's one that snowballs pretty quick if you're not, and it affects your sleep, and the list goes on.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll say get outside. I think getting outdoors and just being outdoors is like something that's so underrated. Try to get outside for at least 10 minutes and like really be outside and not be consumed by technology or driving or anything like that. I mean, get outside, whether it's a walk or it's sitting out there on your front porch or whatever it needs to be. Just get out there and like be outdoors and not distracted for at least 10 minutes a day.
That's awesome. I want to touch on the nutrition thing that we talked about earlier. And my goal would be for people to mindfully eat. I think this is one that so often doesn't happen. You might be stressed at work. You're going to work through your lunch. Now you're eating and you're working. This is really important way to just slow things down, focus on your food, actually chew your food, right? Because now if you're swallowing whole pieces of food, that's more stress to the body trying to break it down. We can go on about that, right? So just take some time for yourself, focus on your nutrition, think about what you're actually eating. Is it going to help you reaching your goals, making you feel more energized, etc. And mindfully eat.
Yeah, don't eat with distractions. Don't eat in front of the TV. Don't eat with your phone in your hand.
See me starting the podcast. Like, I'd love to eat.
I know. I was laughing when you said that.
But I've stopped it. See, I'm learning things from our own podcast.
Oh, you know why we all do it, right? It's not about, this isn't about being perfect.
No, we're all human.
I think this is the last one for me, but create a sleep schedule. Get a sleep routine that you can stick to consistently to optimize sleep. Once again, this isn't about making it perfect, it's about making it better. So have a routine before bed and try to stick to a fairly similar schedule. I think one of the hugest stress factors when it comes to sleep is the way that people treat their sleep weekdays compared to weekends. That's so hard for our bodies to adapt to when you go to bed every night on the week at 10 p.m. and then on the weekend you stay up till 2 a.m. I'm not telling you don't do it, but be aware of it. And if you have an opportunity to bring those two numbers a little closer together, it will benefit you.
For sure. I'm just going to leave everyone with the last tip, just making sure that you have some type of outlet when it comes to periods of overwhelming or high stress, whether it's talking to a therapist or a life coach or anyone really for that matter, just someone to, even just to, you might just hire someone or talk to someone to help you organize your schedule. Something that can help alleviate any aspect of your life or any of your stresses is so important. And I just want to leave everyone with the importance of that.
I think the bigger your team, the better, honestly. Like people are always shocked to hear that like you and I would hire a coach or that like a therapist would work with a therapist. Like the bigger your support network, the better you're going to function in life. I love having people on my team. I love having people around me. I don't want to do this journey alone. It's great to have people to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can have someone helping you with or doing part of that, I hire a physiotherapist, even though I have the knowledge for it. I have one because it just helps take that part of my thoughts and my stress out. They tell me what to do. It just exactly kind of takes a little bit of that crazy brain going a million miles an hour out of that part. And it makes it a little easier every day. I'm going to leave everyone with a tip today, and it's just going to be about mobility. I'm going to keep it really simple. I would say choose one area of tightness and pick one stretch. All I'm asking is one 60-second stretch every single day. I want you to do it for 2 weeks and see the difference that just pick one stretch, one area, 60 seconds a day. My favorite is hips, something for hips. That would be my my favorite.
And so if you have a specific problem area and you don't know what stretch to do, reach out to us and we'll give you one.
Definitely.
Cool. I like it. Well, thank you guys for listening. Hope you got some value. As always, if it was helpful, if you know anybody that you think might benefit from it, please share it with them. Also, if you take a screenshot of this wherever you're listening, share it to your Instagram or Facebook story and tag Breaking 90 Fitness in it. That means the world to us. It gets our name out there, gets more people listening, so that we can keep doing this for you guys. Thank you. All right. Have a good day.